Good afternoon, students. Today we'll discuss about the conflict management. So it is a part of human resource management. So yeah. So in introduction, conflict is a perpetual giving of life. It is a disagreement. Conflict is a disagreement between two parties in which one party feels cheated either through their needs, interest, or concern. So this is a kind of disagreement, conflict. So many people view it as a negative perspective, or this can be prevented. Many people also view it as occurrence which necessitates management, while many others view it as a disagreement and argument about something important. So when we say conflict, it's a kind of disagreement between two parties. So it may be taken as a negative in a negative perspective, or it can be like it is necessitates occurrence, because this will help the management in means this will help the management team, to solve the different situations, different problems when happens in the organization, in their department. So it is a kind of challenges. So conflict occurs every day. It can be avoided. Okay, it cannot be avoided because it's a human being. So human beings have all human resources, or human beings have different behaviors, characters, nature. Their tastes and preferences are different. So their opinions and likes and dislikes are different. So it will occur in the organization, so it cannot be avoided. So you should have a knowledge about conflict management. So conflict is a positive sign of highly dedicated organizational members. It is normal because of the nature of the organization. Modern managers are challenged not to avoid or suppress conflict, but to constructively resolve it. So one cannot avoid conflict. So conflict will definitely happen in the organization. So you should have a knowledge about conflict management. And whenever conflict happens in the system, you should be able to solve the problem in a constructive way. So conflict can also increase group conflicts when managed. It is in view of this fact that organizations make deliberate efforts to ensure that conflicts are managed and resolved in the work environment for the sustenance of peace and stimulation of sustainable development. So this paper focuses on the concept of conflict, then types and causes of conflict, conflict management stages, and its implications for educational management. So what is conflict? Conflict is part of human existence. Okay. It usually occurs when people differ in their feelings, thoughts, and action. So conflict is a kind of disagreement. So it occurs when people have different feelings, different thoughts, different actions. So it happens. It is normal, and people are not likely, they to be consistent in all the times. When there is a disagreement, there is likely to be a dispute in an organization. So conflict happens when there is disagreement in their feelings, in their thoughts, opinions, likes and dislikes and actions, when you are not accepting one's opinions or ideas, you will come up with different ideas, different views, different opinion. So this point of time, conflict happens, conflict arises. So, but a dispute or well manners is likely to promote unity, teamwork. Conflict theory is a very important role to an administrator. It is also important to various other fields, including education, sociology, and even communication, among others. Conflict can be seen as a struggle caused as a result of differences in values, scarce resources, and even power, such that the goal is to either neutralize or eliminate the competition or rival completely. So conflict, it can be seen as a struggle, okay, because of the differences in values, because of the scarce resources available in the organization, or even power. So let's see types of conflict. There are various types of conflict which are also resolved in different way. So these are the types of conflict given by Robbins and DeSanjo. So first we'll start with intrapersonal conflict. So intrapersonal conflict occurs within the individual as a result of role conflict and job stress. So intrapersonal conflict occurs within the individual because of role role conflict and job stress. Role conflict means different role played by persons in a given community or organization. So role conflict means different role played by the persons in an organization or in a community. It's explained with an example. The role of a parent and that of an employee may come into conflict. The role of a parent and that of an employee may come into conflict when the employee's child becomes sick and the career parent is stressed at work. This leads to intrapersonal conflict, as the worker may not be able to put his or her best into the ever mounting pressure of work on the table. The effect of intrapersonal conflict may result in self destruction, alcohol, and drug abuse. It also has effect on the job performance, turnover, and absenteeism. However, this can be solved by sending staff to seminars, workshops, counseling centers that are set up in the office. So intrapersonal conflict is it's a conflict occurs within the individuals. So say it is explained by with an example. So an employee's child is sick. So because of his child's sickness, he or she cannot focus in his work. Okay, so it will lead to this and so this leads to because of the pressure, the because of the intrapersonal conflict, it may result to self-destruction, maybe started using alcohol, maybe drug abuse. So this will in turn affect the job performance, and he may leave the job, okay, and join other company, okay, where she feels free to work, where there is no pressure or absenteeism means it will affect like that. So this is a kind of result of intrapersonal conflict. So intrapersonal conflict is the conflict that is happened within the individual. So this kind of conflict can be solved by sending staff to seminars, okay, workshops, by sending staff to a different environment. His mind can be changed into a different environment, and his mind will get engaged in that environment so that he can forget the pressures, okay, home pressures, workload pressures, okay. So his mind can be diverted. Then interpersonal conflict, it occurs between two or more persons. So it is the conflict, disagreement between two individuals in an organization. So different in values, this may result from different in values, different in problem solving styles, different in managerial philosophies. So interpersonal between two individuals. So in different in values, when one person places a great emphasis on task accomplishment to the exclusion of all else, while another stresses the need to maintain good employee relation, if even if performance of the immediate task is slightly affected. So this is all because of the different views. Okay, different opinions. So one will focus on the task accomplishment, and another persons, he will try to maintain a good relation, employee relation, even if the performance, if it is slightly affected to the performance, so when this happens and working together in the same environment, conflict will arise. Then second, problem solving styles. So one employee may prefer to work independently, then while the other people will prefer to work in group. So and they are assigned a task. So to one employee will say, yes, I'll work independently. I'll work alone. I'll handle it alone. And other will say, this is better to work together. So we should work in a group. So when these kind of different opinions happens, interpersonal conflict will arise. So we call it interpersonal conflict. Then different in managerial philosophies. So one manager or supervisor may favor decentralization in decision making, while another favors decentralization. So one manager or supervisor, he may want to delegate authorities. Okay. So, and he want to take a decision. Okay. In a centralized way, and another manager, he want to make a decision in decentralized way. So conflict, interpersonal conflict will occur due to the competition between two or more employee. Okay, so these three are the results of this interpersonal conflict. And third one, types of conflict. Third one, person group conflict. So individual here, an individual may decide to challenge the norms or rules of behavior that control group membership. When instances of waste, fraud, or corruption are brought against this person and reported is investigated, and affected employees then feels threatened. So it is a person in a group. A person in a group, say, working together means what? Following the same objectives in one direction, moving in one directions, working together, then coordination and cooperation is there in a group work. So when among these group, when an individual may decide to challenge the rules of the behavior that controls group, you know, this will prepare like he may feel something affected. He'll feel threatened. Okay, if the group goes against this person. So it is a kind of person group conflict. It happens. So when the group is not accepting that individuals who challenge to break the rules or behavior of the group. Then intergroup conflict. This is among the group. Okay, it is occur between people who are working together. Intergroup conflict occur between people who are working together in a department. It is caused by issues pertaining authority, jurisdiction, control of workflow, and access to scarce resources. So this person, Jimo Kaderi, classifies intergroup conflict into bargaining conflict, system conflict. So in this bargaining conflict, it takes place when groups struggle for power, influence, and even scarce resources within the organization. Bargaining conflict results when there are budget deficits and the government attempts to reduce it by cutting down expenditures. So bargaining conflict happens, okay, when there is the budget deficit in budget, or when the government tries to reduce the expenditures like that. Then system conflict. So in these system conflicts, when different departments in an organization, they are working towards different objectives. When persons, groups working in an organization, different departments, they are working towards different objectives, which are completely different from the overall organizational goals. Say, when a group of persons, okay, they work for the project because they have the different objectives or different goals, which is completely different from the organizational goals. So this time, in this type point of time, the conflict arises, you know, because they are in a different working environment with a different objectives. The system conflict can be resolved through the use of task force and rotating members of departments among work units. So work rotation, job rotation. So will solve the system conflict. Then what are the causes of conflict? Reasons. So conflict occur between manager and subordinates, labor and management, work groups, and between the organization and its external environment. So in organization, conflict occurs this manager and subordinates, labor and management, work groups, and between the organization and its external environment. So some of the causes of organizational conflict given by Jimo Kadari: personality differences and communication barriers, conflicting interests, scarce resources, then the administrative style. The causes of conflict. So, in personality differences, individuals whose attitudes and behaviors cannot agree are sometimes assigned to work together. If they ignore each other's needs, conflicts may result. So, when individuals or employees work together in a same department under one department, who is having a different attitudes and behavior, and they are people with different attitudes and behavior are working together. Okay, they've given a similar tasks, and if they are not taking care of each other, means they if they are not taking the feelings of others or their opinions or ideas, that means they ignore each other's needs, conflict will definitely happen. So also the differences in individuals perception can also cause disagreement. So when management staffs are not tactful in introducing changes and processes, there could friction. So friction can happen. So when you assign a task to your subordinates or your employees, you should know their attitudes, behavior, their natures, their needs and wants. So if two different individuals, totally different individuals are put under, say, some same uh, assignment, okay, to work together, you know, in that conflict will happen, will result. Okay, so the management who is handling the activities, he should be very tactful in introducing any changes in the organization. Okay, then number B, communication barrier, causes of conflict. Communication barrier. Conflict arises as a result of barriers in the communication process. So if there is no proper communication, two way of communication, and if the sender of messages did not encode the message properly, and the receiver, the one who receives the message, could not decode the message properly, then there is a communication miscommunication. Okay, so communication is very important because most of the senior officials, managers, they they're 75 to 80%. Okay, they most of the time they spend in communicating with their subordinates or with their employees, because we are handling people, we are managing people, not the machines. So we should know the nature of individuals, their likes and dislikes, their preferences, their behavior, that their character, attitudes, everything. So we cannot expect that very individual will perform well. just by looking his features. No. Through communication, we would be able to understand the people's ideas and perceptions, their likes and dislikes, and we'll definitely will find out what he or really wants to have. Okay, we should try to find out their feelings. We should understand his feelings. So it is very, very important to have a good communication with your employee or subordinates. Because after graduation, some of you will work as a manager, as an engineer, so will be a responsible person in that field in your organization. So you will manage, you will lead your team. So you will be a team leader. So you should know your people. So communication is very important. Proper communication, smooth communication is very important. So communication in, if there is no proper communication, no conflict will arise. So Hanmu sees communication as a transfer of meaning that is from the source to the receiver. So the manager in an organization, it can cause conflict by changing the organization's culture, by bringing in workers from other companies. Because of the change in the organization culture, conflict will arise. Conflict will come up because changing organization cultures means they will follow different cultures, different working environment, different work culture. So some of the individuals, some of the employees may like the changes, and some of them will prefer to work the previous one, traditional one. Then by bringing workers from other companies, so workers from other companies will what? If had different work cultures and entering to the different working environment, the existing employees may or may not accept the workers. Okay, so differences in opinion will happen, restructuring the organization, or by appointing a solicitor. So this can happen. And C, conflicting interest. Conflicting interests may be result of as a result of differences in goals among organizational members. Immature behavior on the part of many management staff and employees can also cause conflict. Conflicting interest, causes of conflict, conflicting interest. Conflicting interests may be as a result of differences in goals, so among the members of an organization. So so say immature behavior. So some of the management staff and employees, because of their immaturity in taking decisions, okay, in selecting a workload or anything, decisions on the part of the assignment of tasks, immaturity of the staff or employees can cause conflict. Then scarce resources, organizational resources are not always sufficient. People, money, materials, time to meet all of the needs may be in short supply, thus generating conflicts. So organizational resources, see, are always not sufficient. Okay, so available resources like people, there may be some department have required recruitment of people, like sorters of people. Okay, so in handling a particular department, and some of the organization have a sorters of money, because they need money, to in order to run their business, for smooth running of their business. Even if they have skillful person, skillful manpower, if they need money, then this happens, then materials, time. So when these things are becoming sorters, so conflict will happen. So when an individual seeks some mutually desirable resources by others that are in short supply, the emerging or resultant competition may generate conflict. So this is what scarce resources. So administrative styles. The administrative style adopted by an administrator tends to be a source of conflict if it is autocratic. So there are different types of leadership. Okay. So the type of leaderships adopted by the managers in the organization, by the employees in the organizations. So means according to the type he adopted, it will lead to, it can be a source of conflict. If it is autocratic, it's very strict military type of leadership. You know what is military type of leadership? In this autocratic type of leadership, so whatever the decisions, I'll assign the tasks, I'll give the responsibility and delegate the authority to you all, and the decisions, I'll take the decisions. So whatever I said, you have to do it. Okay. So it is yes boss type. Okay, yes sir, yes sir. So decisions, everything will be taken by the manager, by the leader. So this is a kind of autocratic type. So in democratic type of leadership, the leaders will discuss, consult with the followers about any issues. Okay, and he takes the opinion from the followers, but the final decision is made by the leader in democratic type. But this autocratic type of leadership, the leader will do anything, everything. Okay, from the assignment of tasks to the final decisions, he will decide everything. So if it is autocratic type, then there will definitely conflict will rise. So when appointments and promotion are carried out by management without due consultation and cooperation of the unit heads, conflict would result. So in the organization, when there is an appointment or when appointment of employees, okay, or when an employee has to be promoted, you know um, if the senior managers continue and consult with the unit heads, then conflict will comes up. So these are the five types of sources of conflict, five sources of causes of conflict, sorry, causes of conflict. First, personality differences, communication barrier, causes of conflict, conflicting interests, scarce resources, administrative styles. Then conflict management in organization. So conflict management is a strategy employed to reduce the frequency of destructive encounters by strengthening the inhibitors to conflict actions and avoid triggering of events. Conflict management is aimed at limiting and avoiding violence between two parties. So, conflict management means what? Conflict management is to reduce the frequency of destructive encounters, to inhibit the conflict actions. It is to avoid the violence between two parties. So, according to Agedo, conflict management is an umbrella term. So, according to him, conflict management is an umbrella term. When it is segregated or when it's separated, three meanings comes up. That is, a conflict management is a term, as an approach, as a discipline. As a term, conflict management refers to a process whereby dispute is reduced and therefore brings about a positive change in behavior. As a term, conflict management as a term, it refers to a process. What is that process? Systematic way of doing things, okay, which reduce the dispute, happening of dispute, and brings about a positive change in behavior. So conflict management as a term is a process whereby dispute is reduced and brings about a positive change in behavior. Conflict management as an approach, it is a systematic method of dealing with the causes, symptoms, dynamics, transformation, contentment, settlement, and resolution. So, as an approach, it is like conflict management as an approach. It is like a systematic of way of doing the things, dealing the conflict. what are the causes, okay, for the symptoms, dynamics, transformations, who are involved in that conflict, okay, from where it comes up, then a kind of settlement, kind of resolution. So all this is the conflict management as an approach. So Hausman perceives conflict management as a difference between relevant ideas and irrelevant ideas. So according to him, conflict management is a difference between relevant and irrelevant ideas. So So managers must mediate to ensure that conflict is resolved and prevent misunderstandings from being protected and destructive dispute. So dispute or disagreement will definitely happen in the organization because it is a management of people. So what a managers can do is, he should ensure that conflict is resolved and prevent misunderstandings from becoming protected and destructive disputes. Mediation is necessary as it is aimed at helping people to settle their misunderstandings. It is all it misunderstandings like because of different opinions, different ideas, okay, different attitudes, behavior. It helps individuals who have misunderstanding towards conflict management resolve their differences. And let's see stages of conflict management. According to Eghedo, conflict management, it takes place into three stages: pre-conflict, conflict, and post-conflict. First stage, pre-conflict stage. In this stage, efforts are made by third party, that is peacemaker, okay, to, to, to resolve the dispute before the situation degenerates into physical combat. So in this pre-conflict stage, uh, peacemaker, he will try to solve the dispute before it comes to physical combat. This, he says, is a proactive conflict management stage because conflict is anticipated and efforts are made to redress causal grievances to avoid escalation. So, pre conflict stage is such a stage that the peacemaker, the outsiders, or the person who is handling the conflict, he first try, she's uh, the any kind of conflict which may happen, okay, so he first sees the or foresee the conflict, so he try to sort out the problem before it comes out very serious, okay, and so it is a kind of proactive management, conflict management. So so he tried to correct the things before it happens, before actual conflict happens. So taking action in advance, so as to avoid the conflict in our aggression. So this is the pre-conflict stage. Uh, so pre-conflict management stage is also significant and desirable because the cost associated with violent conflict can be avoided. So second stage, conflict stage. In this, efforts are made by third party to bring about peace and hostility between actors engaged in ongoing conflicts. So in this second stage, efforts are made to bring peace among the groups, conflict group, and end hostility. The dispute at the pre-conflict stage or such efforts were unsuccessful. Post-conflict stage, according to this, it is met by third party to ensure sustainable peace after initial conflict has ended, to ensure peace after initial conflict has ended in order to avoid a reoccurrence of conflict in the future. So this normally takes the form of post-conflict economic reconstruction. This is sometimes stages of conflict. First is pre-conflict, second is conflict, and third is post-conflict. So in pre-conflict, before the conflict actually happens, they solve out the problem. Okay, because they can predict the uh, conflict which may happen, which may arise in the department. Okay, then before it actually happens, they sort out the problem. And conflict means in here it is already happened. Okay, so it is like something the peacemaker tries to bring peace and hostility. And post conflict, it is already happened conflict. Okay, and its effort is to avoid reoccurrence of the conflict. So these are the stages of conflict management. So methods of handling conflict, there are various methods. So five methods have been given. So Robert, Jan, and Morton highlights five conflict management styles: competitor, collaborator, compromiser, accommodator, the avoider. So here, conflict management, the first conflict management style, competitor. So in this, the individual realizes his aims or goals. Then it is a management style, conflict management style, how you manage the conflict. So as a competitor, if the person who is managing the conflict, he view as a losing a sign of weaknesses, while if he wins to sort out the problem, he views as a strength. So this is the competitor. So and a collaborator, he is a problem solver. The collaborator is also known as a problem solver, proposes that he de-emphasizes significance of losing and winning. So he tries to seek a mutually acceptable or approved solution to group members' problem. So collaborator, which is the one of the conflict management style, the one who adopt this kind of management style, you know, will try to seek mutually acceptable ideas, opinions, okay, or solution. Okay, so means if there is a conflict happened in the organization, he will try to try to gain some kind of mutually acceptable solution to group members problem. Then compromiser, this person would works to add groups at the expense of the individual, as he views everyone as a loser in the conflict. So as a compromiser, he view everyone to be a loser in the conflict. So we try to compromise between the two parties. Hello? Ito kanina ko. Nang long to bra. Nato nga. Ako ay po nga the class learning ito kasi. Mm. So the accommodator. The accommodator is it's a friendly helper. It is also called a friendly helper. So he will neglect me. He is not interested with his needs, wants, and goals. So he only try to maintain, a friendly atmosphere within the group. Okay. So this is an accommodator type of is a one type of conflict management style. Then avoider. Here, so he sees conflict as totally a non-positive entity. So he decides to exclude himself from the conflict by disassociation. So when there is a conflict in your department, in your organization, in your group, how you handle the conflict, how you manage the conflict, these are the five types. So you must have seen people, your or friend, who tries to avoid the things. Wherever there is fight, he will try to avoid it. He just exclude himself from the uh, environment. So avoider, accommodator, who tries to maintain a good relationship, good environment in the group. Then compromiser, he tries to he you must have uh, means made some kind the such kind of individuals. When there is a fight, when there is a disagreement among the groups, one of your friend, he comes up and he tries to compromise the things. So he views everyone as a loser in the conflict. So these are the five types of conflict management style. So you have already come across such kind of styles in the group as a students also. So same thing when you join the organization, you will come across different individuals and different opinions, different concepts, conflicts, many things. So these are the five management style how you manage the conflict. uh, let's see क्या है. So these are the strategies, okay, conflict management strategies, structuring strategies, confrontive strategies, avoidance strategies. So three types of strategies given by Conrad as in Thomas. Okay, Conrad as in Thomas classified communication strategies in conflicts into three categories: structuring strategies, confrontive strategies, and avoidance. In structuring strategies, reduces any ambiguity inherent in the conflict so that a productive solution is achieved. So it reduces any ambiguity. Okay. Like it reduces which is vague ideas. Okay. So strategies include specific strategies include issues, establishment of evaluation criteria, and manipulating relationship. Then confrontive strategies, it is used as a last resort. It includes coercion. For example, an overt display of power and trade promises, personalization, and toughness. Finally, avoidance strategies. It allows participants to avoid a conflict. Okay. It allows the participants to avoid the conflict. So avoidance strategies. So if you don't want to involve, okay, and if you think it is not of useful to the group, you make take avoidance strategies. So the result of avoidance strategies can be constructive, although avoidance is usually looked upon as destructive. So in these avoidance strategies like delays, procrastination, regression, revenge, and refusal to admit that a conflict actually exists. So these are the three strategies and implication for educational management. So educational managers should adopt child-centered approach by being sensitive to the needs of the child. So managers, should adopt child-centered approach by being sensitive to the needs. It should adopt three stages, which is mentioned: pre-conflict, conflict, and post-conflict. For effectiveness and efficiency, educational managers need to adopt policies and management styles that have help in managing conflict. Managers should also recognize that educational institutions are organizations where conflicts are bound to occur. So you should put policies and modalities in place to that of conflict management so as to resolve issues in the management of educational institutions. So conflict management, it is applicable everywhere in every department, in every organization, because it is the management of people. So working in an organization means what? Management means what? Management mainly it's a human resources. So handling or managing human resources means it is not an easy task. It is a very complicated one. Just by seeing the features or by seeing the nature of people, we cannot take final decisions that he is such kind of individuals like that. So it is a very difficult job to take a final decision unless and until you communicate with him and you try to understand the natures of the individual. So it is all about the management of people. So it is the management, or as it is being the management of people, you will definitely face conflict. So in the organization, because different people have different opinions, their likes, their tastes and preferences, their different views, so obviously conflict will happen, and you should have a brief idea about the conflict management. So with this few knowledge, some knowledge you have, you can apply or you can adopt any conflict management styles. And you have understand the stages, 3 stages, and you should know that stages also. Okay. Yes, if you have any issues, please let me know if you have any queries. So shall I take your attendance? Civil, roll number 1,
Present, ma'am.
2,
Present, ma'am.
3,
Present, ma'am.
4,
Present, madam.
5,
Yes, ma'am.
6,
Yes, ma'am.
7,